Hello everyone, this is RC053, and I'm bringing you a North Korean mechanized deck. Let's dive right in, starting with the logistics. We have the UAZ-469B, just your standard Red 4 command unit. Nothing really special here. It's the same thing that we've seen with basically every other country. But it's pretty fast, and it has good autonomy for being 100 points, so I definitely like it. Then we have a forward operating base, the only building you can deploy at the start of a match. And yeah, you just can't compare any one card of logistics to getting 16,000 liters of supply. So having that is exceptional. Then we have the MI-4. And yeah, the MI-4, not my favorite logistics helicopter, but it gets the job done most of the time. It just doesn't do it the fastest, considering it only has 180 kilometers speed. But, you know, have 1,000 liters of supply, which is more than our ZIL-130 cargos, which only carry 800 liters of supply. So, I mean, these are the only logistics units that we really have to speak of. You know, they have, 60 kilometers an hour, which isn't bad. You know, it's better than, like, the M35, which I think has a 50 kilometers off-road, but still. So, yeah, only carries 800 liters, which can be a bit of a problem, but, if you group these up, in groups of 1 or 2, maybe more, can definitely resupply your guys pretty well. And to just manage what supplies they're giving out under there, and you should be good enough if you have to repair something. Infantry, a lot of Bochongshu. And I'm bringing them the cheapest transport I possibly can. Why? Well, because North Korea, that's why. Well, really, it's because I need filler in this deck as infantry, and sadly we don't get access to shock troops. Like, East German Mechanized, or who else? West German Mechanized, both of those have excellent shock troops available to them in their mechanized deck. Whether that be the Bochongshu, or if it's, of course, the Panzer Grenadiers with their awesome law. And so, you really have to balance that. Sadly, in this deck, we don't get any shock troops. It's just the jump straight from all these regular trained guys straight to elite. So yeah, there is that to it. But basically, just to fill up the enemy as a spammable infantry unit, I have the Bochongshu. I mean, they're pretty nice. They get the job done most of the time. And the Type 73 light machine gun does pretty well, I'll say. It's not the best light machine gun, but it gets the job done. Their 5-point transport's not really much to talk about. They've got an okay machine gun with 10-50 meter range. Accuracy on it could be better, though. Just a lot of things could be better with it. And then, yeah, it's better than the BTR-50K. It's only got 45 speed. It's just not very good. It's very low speed, very low autonomy, not a lot of armor. It's basically the epitome of a bad transport, in my opinion. But that meant, because I took these guys all of the ZSD, I basically backed myself into a corner, and everybody else had to come to the BTR-50K. But, as long as you keep these guys to the road, they will be okay. Just to go over some of North Korea's unique transports quickly. You have the VTT-323 with the CPTU-2. Same one that some of those cheaper gun trucks get. Not the best, but definitely not the worst. Good at suppressing enemy infantry. Suzang-po adds the Suzang-po to that. And the Hwasong-chong, watch out for these guys. I'm not taking them in this deck just because they are extremely expensive transports at, 20 points, which there are far more expensive units, but just doesn't really suit the purposes of my deck. But what you do get is that 9M31 surface-to-air missile, and oh my gosh, even if you, I mean, you may have a couple of these, you know, if you were to just have one of these, then yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about the safety of your helicopters. But when you are spamming North Korean infantry with in these transports, my gosh, you are going to have a problem on your hands, just because of, you know, the numbers you can bring in. Yeah, that's just a huge issue. Then we have the Igla. Igla is just a standard, you know, surface-to-air missile man-pad platform. Basically, every country gets it. On Redfall, anyways. You know, it's got good range, and that's what I like about it. It's got better range than the Stinger, but, you know, it doesn't have that same accuracy. But that's okay, because, you know, if we get 11 of them, so you can bring in, you know, them in groups of 2, and statistically speaking, you'll get 1 hit. Then we have the Bochongshu. These guys have the Type 56 recoilless rifle. For some reason, the guy's carrying what looks like the Carl Gustav. Not really sure what's with that. I know the Carl Gustav is technically considered like a recoilless rifle, like a short handheld recoilless rifle, but it's not quite the same thing. Probably just, you know, what they had available, you know, for a model, but still. Yeah, we have the Type 56 recoilless rifle, and they have an assault rifle. These guys are great at engaging lightly armored vehicles, as well as engaging enemy infantry and suppressing them when they're out in the open, or, you know, even just the building block over. They can be very effective in a semi-anti-infantry role, but, you know, they're 10 points, and so you can bring in a lot of them, and you can bring them in very cheaply. So yeah, I really like these Bochongshu. The guys I always forget are there are the Gongbyongs. Now, the Gongbyongs are very good in an anti-infantry role because they have a flamethrower, but don't ask them to go up against a tank or any vehicle, because they're likely not going to do well. But yeah, the flamethrower, the real advantage of having them is just that you have a lot of anti-infantry capability, especially considering taking 2 cards of these guys with 17 of them at hardened. So yeah, I really like, you know, the anti-infantry capability that they provide. Just make sure you back them up with Bochongshus or something in the vehicles tab with a gun that can back them up against enemy tanks. Oh, shoot, why am I moving on to sport? Oh my gosh. Last but certainly not least, these are probably the best units I have in the deck, you know, for North Korea, are the Yukjeondaes. Now, these Yukjeondaes are very, very good all-around special forces groups. They're 30 points, so you're not breaking the bank, you know, compared to some of the others. You know, it's a good balance between, like, the really expensive 35-point enemy infantry and a balance between, like, the 25-point enemy infantry, special forces and stuff. But they have the AKS-74U, which is very good against, you know, infantry and such, because it has that 40% accuracy and also very high rate of fire. You also get the Type 69-3, which is an exceptional, you know, law. The biggest disappointment I have is that the Bochongshu don't get that. Or one of my big disappointments with North Korea is that you can't take, you know, Bochongshu 90 with basically the same thing other than that law. Because imagine Bochongshu coming in these numbers with an awesome RPG. The capitalists would not stand a chance. And I actually might believe that. Because these things are just, nope, not that guy. These guys, I mean, so good. So good. Try them out if you haven't tried them out. Great special forces. And then we have the RPD. Different than, you know, you're not using the RPK like other countries, which means it's good. And it fires a heavier round, so you're not going to have the high rate of fire. It's that, like 400 rounds a minute. But you do get much more suppression damage, So you can do better at suppressing the enemy infantry, panicking them, stunning them, and doing all that. So your guys will be better when they engage you. These guys did great in the gameplay that I had with them. They performed excellently, I'd say. There is no denying it, in my opinion. Moving on to support. M1992 Spag, or Spog, which was made in 1989, so yeah. Supposedly made, you know, the name says that it suggests that it would be made in 1992. Actual year is 1989, which just proves that North Korea is ahead of its time in all of its military assets. But on a serious note, these M1992 Spog is actually really good. I'd watch out for it if I were on, you know, Blue 4, because there were a few times when the enemy would drop their bombs, and these M1992s shot them down. No trouble at all. Even killed an F-15C Eagle. That was, I believe, undamaged. Yeah, holy crap, these M1992 Spogs are just super good. They're super OP. But such is the nature of North Korea, of course, that they're the best and most overpowered nation in the game, because they have access to weapons that were blessed by the glorious leader. Anyways, we have the Pongge 3. Very good, you know, anti-helicopter unit. You know, it's good at escorting your troops with 50% accuracy. And there were a lot of times where the 1992 Spogs would, you know, do a lot of damage, and then the Pongge 3 would rapidly finish it off. That was the real benefit. So these guys combo really well. Of course, everybody's favorite, or at least my favorite, the Type 80 Spog. 2,800 meter range against helicopters, so you're going to do a significant amount of damage to them. 6 frontal armor means you can take a hit and retreat it, is what I would recommend. But, you know, it's just a very good AA gun for anti-helicopter. Against anything else, yeah, don't do it. But, you know, for this, it's okay. And then we have some VTT-323 mortars. Keep these relatively close to the front and just have them engage enemy, you know, positions. Maybe do a bit of counter battery, you know, and see enemies' mortars. But very good, because you get 7,700 meter range. You get pretty tight dispersion, you know, standard dispersion for the 120 millimeter mortars. You have 5 HE and good suppression. So these make for great mortars. I'd highly recommend them. They also, well, they only carry 60 rounds. I thought they carried higher than that, actually. I remember them having more rounds. Maybe they got changed or nerfed or something. I'm not entirely certain about that. Tanks. We have the T-72M. This is kind of like a hybrid, I guess, between like a normal T-72 and like the T-72, like the Czech or like the Jaguar or something, where it's kind like where it's got this great gun on it, but it doesn't have the best range, but it has lower armor. It's like I said, it's like a hybrid almost. It's really interesting. It's okay. I mean, you can kill enemy units with it. That's what counts. It's got good accuracy. You know, if you up that, you'll do better with it. Stabilizer is really not that great, so don't shoot this thing on the move. But you can use the armor penetration to great effect, especially up close. So yeah, you do have access to that. Then we have the Chomoho 4. Yeah, it's got the 2275 meter range, so you know that's really useful. It's the best range that we have on any of our tanks in this section. Have 50% accuracy, which yeah, okay, you know, that's fine. And worse stabilizer, but I mean, it's North Korea, you know. Sadly, it's North Korea, so it's not the best tank by any means. And so then we have also 18 armor penetration on the main gun, which, yeah, that's enough to penetrate most tanks. You can go through the frontal armor of an M1A1, but it'll do a lot more damage to you. So yeah, just keep that in mind. And then you have the Chobaho, no, that was like, oh, and then you have the KVPT. Now, there's a 1,400 meter ground range and 1,050 meter range against helicopters. It's not an autocannon, but it's better than like the medium machine guns that most other, tanks have mounted on them. It's very good at suppressing enemy infantry, and you can even kill a light vehicle or two with it. So, I mean, I've had great success with this heavy machine gun mounted on other platforms, and it certainly lives up to that reputation when mounted on this tank. I have a couple of T-62Ds. I kind of forgot why I put these in here, but mostly I brought them in like just to experiment with them, more so as a fire support, and they do decently. They're not the greatest tank, but they're 30 points. What are you expecting from a 30-point main battle tank? It's like I said, it's not the greatest. I had just wanted to try it out, see how well it performed, and it does okay. I mean, I probably, you could definitely switch it to having the Chomaho, but we're playing as North Korea, so mass means everything in some ways. And then you have the Sinhung. Oh yes, the Sinhung. One of the other most OP units in the game. Just kidding, it's not. But it has a 1925 meter ground range, so, shortest range you get. Same with the T-62. Good accuracy, though, and the gun is actually pretty decent. You get 8 rounds a minute rate of fire. You can really use this to escort your transports. Like I said, the ZSD 531, it's the same vehicle. Only this one doesn't act as a transport, which is disappointing. But, they have to make room for that bigger turret and stuff, so, but it works, it's pretty good at escorting, your transports and stuff. So it works, and it also works in forest fighting and such, because of that. So anyways, then moving on to reconnaissance. Biggest flaw with this deck, or biggest shortcoming, is it has no recon infantry. That can be a huge liability for people who like to use, recon infantry, like me. I really like to use recon infantry, and I don't get any. That's an issue for me, but that's an issue for another time. Well, not really, I guess, but, I'm not going to go into depth on, recon infantry. And, for the most part, if you're fighting in, a forest or in a town, recon, in itself isn't going to be the most important, but if you're fighting on the outskirts of a town, then yeah, you definitely need that. But, in a town, it's, usually you don't need reconnaissance. Or if you're fighting in a deep forest and there's not a lot of open ground, you probably won't need recon. But, always good to have. Always good to have. So I have the Type 6.3 here. I think the accuracy got nerfed, which bothers me, because this used to be a little sniper tank. And having that little sniper tank was pretty fun. But they nerfed it, so sad. But yeah. Then, moving on, we have the M1992 Spog. First unit that we have with the very good optics. I'm taking 2 of them at a higher veterancy. Because, well, they have the Concourse, and this is the heaviest AT capacity that we get in our deck, other than, that we get ground-based or helicopter-based. So, yeah, that makes them kind of important. And by kind of, I mean really important. So, yeah, they make for great transports with a grenade... Well, not transports, recon units. I'm pretty sure that these used to be... Or, are actually transports, just if you look at the back here... so that's why I said that. But, it is amphibious. Not the fastest, but it is indeed amphibious. But yeah, you have the AGS-17, you have the Concourse, best arm penetration. Has 60 speed, so it's pretty good. So yeah, the M1992, which actually is, from 1992, is here. And It's nothing like the M1992 Spog in the support section. Two of them because of their important role in the deck. And then we have the MI2. Just a cheap 40-point recon helicopter. Use it to scout ahead of your lines. If you lose it, it's not the biggest deal, but I wouldn't rush it into enemy fire, but, you know, it's cheap enough, you know, that, you know, I'm not too worried about it living or dying necessarily. And then finally, we have the ATS-103, a tank destroyer unit. Yeah, it's okay. I mean, it's got a high rate of fire, which makes it kind of useful in, like, forest fighting, once again, or covering, like, an open field. Taking those, 17 of those at veteran. You know, these are a unit that you could use to back up those Gongbyongs, your flamethrower troopers. It is something that you could do. Then we have the SU-100, yeah, back from, you know, World War II. But yeah, so you could use the SU-100 as just sort of, I don't know, bit of a fire support unit more so than a tank destroyer. It has 3 high explosive damage. It's not the greatest though, but they are cheap. They are cheap, and they're only 15 points now. So yeah, they're only 15 points. You could take the SU-76. Yeah, another World War II unit that was back around during the First Korean War. You know, so yeah, well, it's not, well, I guess it's not technically the First Korean War, it's just the Korean War, because it's never ended. But yeah, so you have the 45-kilometer, you know, it's not fast. It's not accurate, but it's got, oh, I thought I had a high rate of fire. Well, it's got 15 rounds of rate of fire, so, you know, you can put down a lot of fire on the enemy with it. I'm not taking it, though, in favor of just upgrading it for 5 points to the SU-100, which gives you an actually normal range. Yep. And then we have the TO-55. Oh, this is interesting. Oh, we can take them at veteran. But I didn't know we got 17 of them at Harden. That's interesting. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and up them just so they do. They have less. You know, they take less morale damage. But you know, they have a 1925 meter range on the gun. Don't underestimate it. If you're close enough to where you're using flame tanks, they're probably going to be more accurate than that, and thus more effective. The flamethrower itself, though, is pretty useful. You know, you can torch, you know, an area and do a lot of damage to the infantry there, especially in the morale, you know, damage. You can do a lot of damage with that. Yeah, there's not really anything else I would take. You could take the TO-55. You could take, instead of something like, you know, the SU-100, you could take the ZSU-57-2, or I would take like the Malyutkas here. They're definitely not the best options. I don't like the ZSU. Well, I like the ZSU-57, but it just has to engage too close. More than often than not. I mean, you could have it cover a field, I guess, but its accuracy is just, you know, it doesn't have a good rate of fire, and its accuracy is just, in some ways, too low to make that, you know, rate of fire mean something. So, like, you're gonna get, you know, you could have a lot of damage done to you by, like, LAV-25s or Bradleys. The thing is, though, they'll probably have to close and penetrate your armor, so you might be able to, you know, kind of get a trade-off there. You know, but it's best in just covering open fields with its, you know, with its twin autokins, and it's also good at providing fire support because it has 2 high explosive power. And then the Burdium 2, I didn't take the Suzengpo, at least I don't like it as much. It has lower armor penetration, and while that 5% accuracy is important, in this case, I'd say you need all the armor penetration you can get. But yeah, so, it's okay. I can kind of say it's okay. I would also say it's not at all. But I have killed Bradleys with these units. So, you know, guess you could kill something like that. Moving on to helicopters. Yeah, the AGS-17. And the reason I'm taking this unit, well, is because you get, of course, the twin AGS-17. This makes it work a lot like the United States Little Bird. It's okay, you know, they've got very high rate of fire on the grenade launcher. They make for good support, but like the Little Bird, they have very low strength. So I definitely watch out for that, because they could be vulnerable to small arms fire at that point. They could be vulnerable to, you know, tanks that are engaging with a machine gun, or an actual AA piece, which usually will one-shot it, unless it's using something crappy, you know. But I don't think there are really any NATO units that would engage with something like, you know, with 3 HE, beyond like the Red Eye or something. So yeah, usually they're going to be able to one-shot you. So just keep that in mind. Other options, you can take the Mi-4 with its ton of rocket pods. Ugly helicopter, but you know what? It gets the job done. And so yeah, you get a lot of rockets. But they each do 2 HE power. They can fire somewhat accuracy for a rocket pod, you know, better than the 15% on either of these. And so yeah, you get a very okay platform with these. They'll stun vehicles, they'll kill off enemy infantry, they'll stun AA pieces. They'll provide as a screening force for your better helicopters. And by your better helicopters, I mean your allies' helicopters. So yeah, give these Mi-4s. Okay. You also get access to having the Mi-24D in the helicopter tab. I wouldn't recommend it. I mean, I just don't like these guys as attack helicopters. And so, I mean, like, when they're sufficiently up-vetted, when they're coming with, like, Spetsnaz or something along those lines, they'll do awesome. Because they're coming in at veteran, you know, training. But you can't do that. At least you couldn't do that, you know, get enough of them. And then finally, we have our air power, the mighty North Korean Air Force. First interesting thing you'll notice is that we have 2 B-5s. 2 B-5s, you might ask. Isn't that a little excessive? No, it is not excessive. It is mighty. Mighty like North Korea, because it has 15 strength, which makes it difficult for capitalists to shoot it down with their puny missiles, which we don't care about because we're North Korea. But yeah, you have the B-5. It's going to do extensive damage to enemy infantry groups. And by extensive damage, I mean it will wipe it out if they're anywhere near the bomb. And not in cover, like, of a building. And even then, they'll likely get wiped out by the B-5. So yeah, the reason for taking 2 of them is because for some reason they have a nasty habit of one of them gets shot down. But if you have 2 of them, that means twice, you know, the extremely heavy bombs that you get. So, you know, it all makes sense at the end of the day. SU-25K is an anti-tank unit. Well, considering that we don't really have any other options beyond the MiG-21, you know, B, I'd say they're pretty solid choices. The only other option might be these A-51s. You can take 4 of them, or, you know, at trained. You can take 3 of them at veteran. Really doesn't get you much, though. They're just there to bomb, you know, the enemy tanks. And because it's cluster, it'll penetrate the enemy tank from the top. I've done extensive damage for, like, Leclerc's and such, to the point where even if you don't necessarily kill it with one run, it will do a lot of damage. You know, you'll put it out of action for a while. You can also use these as, not to say throwaway bombers, but you can use these to go up against, I don't know, cheaper enemy, vehicles and AA positions, even if you're feeling a little gutsy. For air superiority fighters, 3 MiG-29 912Bs. Are they the best? No, they're not. But do they kind of do something? Yes. They're Vimples. are better now because they have 6 high explosive damage. If you get close enough, you can shoot down F-15Cs, just because of that accuracy that you get on the normal Vimple, which combos extremely well with the other Vimple, the more numerous ones. So, you get a couple of these, off, because they have longer range against airplanes. You get 1 or 2 of these missiles off, one of them hits, and then, probably one of these Vimples is going to hit and you kill it. So yeah, you can do extensive damage to enemy bombers and, tanks. What the? Did I just say tanks? No, I was thinking helicopters. Shoot. My mind's all over the place, I guess, today. All over the place. But you have the MiG-29, 912B, and you can even go after helicopters with it, because you do have a lot of short-range anti-helicopter capability here. For example, you could, and the great thing is, I guess you could say, is that it's fairly cheap. You bring in one of these, they're 120 points, but, if you think about an Apache, well, just a normal Apache is 120 points, so if you have a unit that you just kind of need dead, the MiG-29, can kill off those high-point attack helicopters. Wouldn't use it on anything less, though, because you might lose it, and at that point, the risk isn't worth the reward. And to finish it off, we have the Su-78MK. Well, it's not the best, anti-enemy, anti-infantry unit, but you get a lot of rockets. And so you can, they're 30% accuracy. You can do a lot of stunning damage to the enemy. You can panic them. Usually it will just, instantly suppress the enemy unit if you hit them or get in the area, because it's just, holy crap, there are a bunch of rockets around me, they're exploding, and, I mean, just the plume that these guys give off is just beautiful. And you can do extensive damage, and because they are, indeed, rocket pods, you can rearm them very, very quickly. So, yeah. Moving on to naval, because, if you're using it on another D-Day in Paradise, which I used it on, if you're on the naval map, then you'll definitely need to take this up to the equation. We have the Udaloy, because, well, it's extremely heavy. It does a lot of damage. Yeah, what is not to like with the Udaloy? That's my question. And then the answer, of course, is nothing. Nothing is not to like. Then you have the Jiangyus here. They have a couple of, I think, never mind. I thought they had a couple, main guns. They don't. But they have this main gun, here. They also have a decent, anti-ship missile. I say it's decent, but it does a pretty good job. You'll usually devastate the enemy vessel. Usually, you'll devastate it with it. Just does so much damage. Then you have the Fujian, as really just as an escort ship, so that way you can take out, of course, enemy missile defenses and such. It works pretty well for that, and it also has a dual launcher of the same missiles that the Jianghu has. The thing about Wargame is it doesn't tell you, how you have to face the ship. For the Jianghu, you'll have to face it to the side which has missiles. The Fujian has both of them pointing forward, so that it can engage enemy, from the front. So yeah, you just kind of have to watch that. Same with the Udaloy, you have a dual launcher, so you can fire 2 at a time from the front. And finally, you have the Ludas. These are more there as, I guess you could say, fire support for the ground war. Because if we compare, both of these, they have far worse range. But better rate of fire, better high explosive damage, and a lot more range important. So yeah, I would recommend these maybe in the, what do they call it, in the anti-ship department, but you could use them there. The reason I say that you could use them is just because, well, you get, of course, a very long range on the naval gun. So, you know, you could do that. I think they're pretty useful. I am okay with them. And then, of course, a Muna to keep them all resupplied, rearmed, and not running out of ammunition. Not that. I must be looking for another one. Where is it? Coastal support. There we are. Could use maybe the Shantu. The reason I could suggest it is because you get this recoilless rifle and these, Type 61s. Definitely not the best, but, you know, you can, you know, suppress maybe a bit of enemy infantry in the open. I don't know. You know, you can also do some damage to enemy helicopters and especially to aircraft. Not the best accuracy, once again, but 1 HE damage. But suppression is really bad. I don't know why. That bothers me. Why is suppression only 2? Like, seriously. Why? I don't know. But you get this recoilless rifle, which, I mean, it's got 40 strength, so you can just peck away at enemy tanks and stuff. I mean, all things considered, you know, you can just peck away at it. The thing with ship strength, is it's significantly higher than anything in the helicopters, infantry, or tank tab. So, you know, it may have low armor, but they have a lot of strength, so they can take a lot of punishment. But because of that low, armor, it leads a lot of people, including myself, to end up countering ships in a crazy way using main battle tanks. Like the actual main battle tanks with armor. And believe me, you need that armor. And so yeah, you can use these, you know, tanks to kill off ships. As long as it's not like the SCRB, you know, with, you know, the Hellfires. But you can do an extensive amount of damage. An extensive amount of damage. Using main battle tanks against ships. Because they will only do HE damage. You know, for example, 8 HE damage. You know, they'll only do that. Now, that's very high, of course, but that's all that they will be able to do. So, yeah, very useful tip there for engaging ships. Anyways, I hope you like the North Korea Mechanized deck. I'm also going to put up some gameplay with this pretty soon. So, yeah, it's very good to have this in hand. Anyways, that's it for today, guys. This is RC0538 signing off. Have a good day.